Imagine this. You're 3 miles into a 5-mile run. Your legs have become foreign objects beneath you. Your lungs pull in air as a drowning person grasps at water. And somewhere deep in your mind, a voice begins to whisper, not loudly at first, just a suggestion. You could stop. You should stop. What are you even proving? This moment, this exact visceral moment, is the most honest conversation you'll ever have with yourself. Because here's what nobody tells you. That voice isn't a weakness. It's not your body betraying you. That voice is your brain doing exactly what evolution designed it to do, trying to keep you alive. It's called your central governor, and it has one job: ensure you never spend all your resources. Keep something in reserve. Survive today so you can face tomorrow. But here's the reversal that changes everything. What if that signal to quit has nothing to do with your actual capacity? What if it's just the opening bid in a negotiation you didn't know you could refuse? In the next 14 minutes, I'm not going to tell you to hustle harder. I'm going to show you how to hijack your brain's survival mechanism so that when you feel like quitting, you recognize it for what it really is: an ancient alarm system speaking a language designed for a world that no longer exists. Let's talk about how to win that negotiation. The science of quitting. Here's what's actually happening the moment you want to quit. Your anterior cingulate cortex, the part of your brain responsible for detecting effort, starts firing rapidly. It's registering the gap between where you are and where you're trying to go. At the same time, your amygdala, that ancient alarm system, interprets this effort as potential danger. And here's the crucial part. Your brain doesn't say, your anterior cingulate cortex is experiencing heightened activation. It says, you can't do this. You're not strong enough. This isn't worth it. Stop now. This is the central governor theory, the discovery that your brain regulates your effort based on perceived reserves, not actual capacity. Elite performance researchers have found that most people quit when they've only used about 40% of their true capacity. Think about that. When you feel empty, completely done, you likely have 60% left in the tank. Why do elite athletes keep going when their heart rate is at 190 BPM? It's not because they don't feel the pain. It's because they've learned something that most people never discover. The quit signal is information, not instruction. Your brain is a survival machine, not a success machine. It was designed to keep you alive on the savannah, where spending all your energy could mean death. But you're not running from a predator, you're running toward a goal, and that distinction changes everything. The ancient Stoic philosopher Epictetus understood this 2,000 years ago. He taught, it is not things themselves that disturb people, but their judgments about those things. When you want to quit, you're not responding to reality. You're responding to your interpretation of reality. Your legs are tired. That's a fact. I can't continue. That's an interpretation. There's a microsecond, almost imperceptible, between the sensation arising and your interpretation of it. In that gap lives your entire freedom. So how do we exploit that gap? How do we negotiate with a brain that's been keeping humans alive for millions of years? That's where the 3 steps come in. Step 1. The micro-win method. Here's the first problem. When you look at the mountain, your brain experiences something called decision paralysis. The gap between where you are and where you need to be feels insurmountable. So your central governor does what it's designed to do. It tries to shut you down before you waste resources on an impossible task. If you're at mile 18 of a marathon and you think about mile 26, your brain calculates that 8 more miles of this pain is unbearable. It sends the quit signal. Strong, urgent, convincing. But here's the hack. Don't think about mile 26. Think about the mailbox 100 yards away. This isn't a psychological trick. This is honoring reality as it actually exists. You cannot run 8 miles. That's impossible. 8 miles is an abstraction, a concept, a story about the future. You can only run this step, then this one, then this one. The Zen monk Shunryu Suzuki called this beginner's mind, approaching each moment as if it's your first time, unburdened by the accumulated fatigue of what came before or the projected exhaustion of what's ahead. This step is fresh. This breath is new. The burning you felt 3 minutes ago is already gone. It's just a memory. The burning you fear 3 minutes from now hasn't arrived. It's just imagination. When you collapse the entire journey into this present moment, the weight becomes bearable. And here's the neuroscience behind why this works. Every time you hit one of those micro goals, the mailbox, the next corner, the next minute, your brain releases a small hit of dopamine. That dopamine doesn't just make you feel good, it literally reduces your perception of effort. You're essentially hacking your reward system, turning one big impossible task into dozens of small achievable victories. In the gym, don't think about 50 push-ups, think about 5, then 5 more, then 5 more. At work on a difficult project, don't think about the next 6 months, think about the next focused hour. Confucius said, "The man who moves a mountain begins by carrying away small stones." He wasn't offering a productivity hack. He was describing the only way transformation actually happens, through the accumulation of small decisions that gradually reshape your understanding of who you are. But the micro-win method only works if you solve the second problem, your identity. Step 2, the identity shift. Here's what most people don't understand about mental toughness. It's not a personality trait you either have or don't have. It's an identity you build, choice by choice, in the exact moments when quitting feels like the only rational option. There's a massive difference between these two statements. I am trying to run 5 miles. I am a runner. The first is about the outcome. The second is about identity. And your brain treats these two things completely differently. When you're trying to do something, every moment of difficulty feels like evidence that maybe you can't do it. The quit signal becomes proof that this isn't who you are. But when you've shifted to identity, when you see yourself as the type of person who does this thing, the quit signal becomes irrelevant. Not because it goes away, but because it's no longer connected to your sense of self. Listen carefully. Quitters focus on the trophy. The unbreakable focus on identity. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius understood this. Every morning, when he didn't want to get out of bed, he would ask himself, "Is this what I was created for? To huddle under the blankets and stay warm?" He wasn't denying that staying in bed felt good. He was questioning whether comfort aligned with his identity as someone committed to duty, to service, to virtue. So here's the practice. The next time you want to quit, whether it's a workout, a business, a creative project, a difficult conversation, ask yourself this question: what would the version of me who already has this goal do right now? Not what do I feel like doing, not what would be easier, but what would the person I'm becoming do in this moment? Because here's the secret: you don't become that person by achieving the goal. You become that person by acting like them before you've achieved it. The identity shift happens in the decision, not the result. Consider James Stockdale, a Navy pilot who survived 7 years as a prisoner of war in Vietnam, enduring torture that would break most people. He made it through not with optimism. He watched the optimists break first, constantly hoping for rescue that didn't come. He survived through what's now called the Stockdale paradox, maintaining absolute faith that he would prevail in the end, while confronting the brutal facts of his current reality without fantasy. This is the identity shift in its purest form. He didn't see himself as someone trying to survive. He saw himself as someone who would survive, regardless of what that required. Your version might look different. You're not in a prison camp. But the principle is the same. Decide who you are. Then do what that person would do. Even when, especially when you don't feel like it. Because feelings follow action far more often than action follows feelings. But what about those moments when the urge to quit is so overwhelming that even identity feels shaky? That's where the third step comes in. Step 3. The 5-minute rule. Here's a tactical hack that works when everything else feels too philosophical, too abstract, too distant from the screaming in your muscles or your mind. When the urge to quit really hits, when it feels undeniable, when your entire system is saying, "Stop now, make a deal with yourself. I will give this 5 more minutes of genuine effort, high-intensity, focused effort. If I still want to quit after 5 minutes, I can." That's it. That's the rule. Here's why this works. The urge to quit isn't constant. It comes in waves. Research on effort perception shows that these quitting waves typically peak and then subside within 2 to 3 minutes. Your brain sends the alarm. If you don't immediately respond by quitting, the alarm starts to quiet down. Not because the situation has changed, but because your brain realizes you're not dying and adjusts its threat assessment. The ancient Taoists understood this. The Tao Te Ching teaches, "Do you have the patience to wait until your mud settles and the water is clear?" The urge to quit is a mud clouding the water. If you just wait, not fighting it, not denying it, just maintaining your action while it passes, the water clears on its own. 90% of the time when you make this deal with yourself, one of two things happens. Either the wave passes and you realize you can continue, maybe not comfortably, but you can continue, or you discover that the reason you want to quit isn't weakness or lack of toughness, it's legitimate information. Maybe you're injured, maybe the approach genuinely isn't working, maybe this specific path isn't right for you. And here's what's crucial. There's a massive difference between quitting because you're uncomfortable and quitting because you've assessed the situation and made a conscious choice. The first is reactive, the second is responsive. The 5-minute rule creates space between the signal and your reaction. It gives you back your agency. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus taught his students, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. Do not feel what you have to feel. Do what you have to do. In practice, this looks like rule. You want to leave the gym? 5 more minutes of focused work. You want to abandon the project? 5 more minutes of genuine effort. You want to end the difficult conversation? 5 more minutes of honest engagement, and here's what happens over time. You start to trust yourself, because you've proven, again and again, that you can outlast the wave, that the urge to quit isn't a command, it's just weather passing through. That trust, that's the beginning of something deeper, the golden nugget, the second wind secret. Here's the realization that changes everything. The truth hidden in plain sight across every wisdom tradition for thousands of years. Mental toughness is not something you have, it's something you build, and you build it in only one place, the exact moment when you want to quit. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." For years, people have quoted this as motivation, but it's not motivation. It's an observation about the fundamental nature of reality. The urge to quit isn't interrupting your development of mental toughness. The urge to quit is the development of mental toughness. Think about it. The blacksmith doesn't lament the hardness of the metal. The hardness is what allows the sword to hold its edge. Your resistance, psychological, emotional, physical, is what allows you to develop resilience. Every single time you feel like quitting, and you choose to continue, even for just 5 more minutes, even for just one more micro-win, you're not just accomplishing a task, you're literally rewiring your brain. Neuroscience calls this activity-dependent plasticity. Your brain physically changes based on what you repeatedly do. Every time you outlast the quit signal, you strengthen the neural pathways that allow you to do it again. You weaken the pathways that make quitting automatic. You're building what some call a mental callus, a thickening of your psychological resilience that makes future challenges more manageable. But here's what nobody tells you. It doesn't get easier. The quit signal doesn't disappear. Elite performers still feel it. The difference is they've changed their relationship with it. They've stopped believing that discomfort is a problem. They've learned to hear the alarm without being alarmed. The ancient Chinese philosopher Zhuangzi told a story about a butcher who had been cutting meat for 19 years without ever sharpening his blade. When asked how this was possible, he explained, "I follow the natural lines. I let the knife find its way through the spaces between joints. I'm not cutting against the grain, I'm moving with it." This is the secret. Mental toughness isn't about fighting yourself. It's about understanding yourself so deeply that you're no longer fooled by your brain's most primitive patterns. You don't eliminate the urge to quit. You learn to recognize it as what it truly is. Ancient survival programming that no longer serves you in this context. You hear it, you acknowledge it, you thank it for trying to protect you, and then you choose based on who you're becoming, not what you're feeling. And gradually, almost imperceptibly, you become someone for whom difficulty is just part of the process. Not a crisis, not a test you might fail, just the texture of growth. That's not toughness, that's freedom. So here's what we've covered. 1. The quit signal is your brain's opening bid, not your actual limit. You likely have 60% more capacity than you think. 2. Use micro-wins to hack your dopamine system and shrink the horizon to this moment, this step, this breath. 3. Shift from trying to do to being the type of person who does. Identity over outcome. 4. Apply the 5-minute rule. Make a deal with yourself. Outlast the wave. 5. Understand that the urge to quit isn't the obstacle to mental toughness. It is mental toughness in its raw, unformed state, waiting to be forged. Right now, you're at a quitting point in something that matters to you. It could be fitness, maybe it's business, maybe it's a relationship, or a creative project. You know what it is. If that's you, if you're standing at that edge, I want you to do something. Comment on the word "you unbreakable" below. Not because it's magic, but because making that micro-commitment, that tiny public declaration, activates the identity shift we talked about. You're telling yourself and everyone watching, I'm the type of person who continues. And to everyone who comments on that word, I'm going to be checking in. We're going to hold each other accountable. Because this isn't just about mental toughness, it's about becoming the kind of people who show up for themselves and each other. Now, if you want to know how to fuel your body to match this mental resilience, because mental toughness without physical optimization is like having a Ferrari with cheap gas. Remember, the signal will come. Let it. You know what it is now. You know what you are. And you know, with the quiet certainty that comes from practice rather than theory, that you can hear it and continue anyway.